Students complete their political science optional without having a proper understanding of the concept of nation state. And without having the proper understanding of this, it is difficult to have a conceptual clarity of the issues. Western European countries or state are carved out on the lines of nation. If you see Germany, by and large you will see whom? German speaking people. Germany is for Germans. India as a nation, that is Akhand Bharat. Borders are artificially demarcated by whom? British. This partition of the subcontinent is injustice against the people of Indian subcontinent. Moderate leadership of Congress was ready to accept the British narrative that India is not a nation, but India is becoming a nation under the British sword. Though Aurobindo rejected this thought and he said India was a nation, India is a nation. The discussion which we are going to do it now, this on nation and state, will make the base of your subject. Students complete their political science optional without having a proper understanding of the concept of nation state. And without having the proper understanding of this, it is difficult to have a conceptual clarity of the issues. Okay, na? So you need the complete clarity on this particular issue of a nation and state. So what are the elements of a nation? Common language, culture. अभी आपको ये भी समझना है culture. Culture is way of life. Culture is way of life. Religion and culture are two different things. ठीक है? Way of life evolved in its evolutionary. Millions of years led to the evolution of culture. World is full of culture, diversity of culture. Culture influence your cuisine. Culture influence your clothing. Okay, culture influence your lifestyle. Like Bengali, culture. A Bengali can be Muslim, a Bengali can be Hindu, a Bengali can be of any other religion. A Tamil Muslim, Tamil Hindu, Tamil Christian, but Tamil culture, they will speak common language. Their attire, dress, clothing will be same. Bengali Muslim or a Tamil Muslim, Bengali Muslim will have more similarities, cultural similarities with whom? A Bengali Hindu or a Tamil Muslim? Bengali Hindu. So culture is one of the strongest binding force. Culture means common language. At least you can communicate and interact. Okay. A Muslim can be in Asian Muslim, a Muslim can be in Pakistan, a Muslim can be in Afghanistan, a Muslim can be in West Asia, Saudi Arabia. Arabic Muslim has no common thing. Their language is different, their culture is different from whom? The Pakistani Muslim. Within Pakistan, Pakistan as a state created on the name of religion. Only religion cannot be a binding force. That's why there are fissures within the state of Pakistan. In Pakistan, there are different cultures, people of different ethnicities and culture. Baluchis, Pashtuns, Sindhis. Okay. And Pakistan's politics is dominated by Muslim Punjabis. Punjabis are on the both side of the border. So Punjabi becomes what? Culture. Right? So language, culture, religion. These are the elements of nation. अभी कुछ लिखना नहीं है, ठीक है? Nation as a concept evolved in West, French Revolution. So it is the West who has given this concept of nation. ठीक है ना? And they have given these elements of nation, that is common culture, common language, common religion. So if you see the Western European countries, you will see lot of homogeneity in them. Okay. Western European countries or state are carved out on the lines of nation. If you see Germany, by and large you will see whom? German speaking people. Germany is for Germans. Italy is for Italians. Britain is for English speaking people. So you see lot of homogeneity in Western European countries because their states evolved naturally. What I said, ये सब लिखवाऊंगा अभी. Their states evolved naturally. तो सबसे पहले हमें ये समझना होगा Western philosophy पढ़ने से पहले how state evolved. And once I'll tell you how state evolved, it will be so easy for you to understand Western philosophy. What was going on at that time? What were the things prevailing at that time? Because the things which were prevailing at that time has influenced the thought of philosophers. And that's why the saying goes, every philosopher is a child of his time. And this quote is most aptly we use for Machiavelli. When Lasky said Machiavelli was the child of Renaissance. So it will come in your mains also. Important question hai. Machiavelli as a child of Renaissance, comment. Okay, what is Renaissance? We'll tell you. So every philosopher is a child of his time. So agar every philosopher is a child of his time, first you need to understand what was there in their times which has influenced the thought of these philosophers. Okay? So how state evolved? So states in the West evolved organically, naturally, and their states are nation states. In third world countries, states are carved out by whom? Imperial colonial powers, and borders are artificial. India was one from just 100 years before. India was one. This red cliff line is artificially drawn by whom? Imperial powers, British. So India as a state ends where? At present, international borders with Pakistan. But India as a nation ends where? Different people can have different idea of nation. You can have an idea of India as a nation of Akhand Bharat. Okay, so Akhand Bharat is a idea of nation. But India as a state ends where? International borders with Pakistan, Bangladesh. But there can be people who can stand for the idea of India as a nation, that is Akhand Bharat. Borders are artificially demarcated by whom? British. This partition of the subcontinent is injustice against the people of Indian subcontinent, because these borders are artificial. Religion cannot be a unitary binding force. Only religion cannot be a unitary binding force. So there are voices and forces who wants to correct this historical injustice. The way China stands for one China and China stands for integrating Taiwan, and China wants to correct the historical injustice. So there are voices who wants to correct this historical injustice. For many, aspiration of Akhand Bharat is a genuine right aspiration. Okay. Akhand Bharat is correcting historical injustice. Just imagine, had there not been Pakistan, the destiny of the people of Indian subcontinent would have been different or not? The path of our economic growth would have been different or not? Since independence, what has pushed back our economic growth? Wars with Pakistan, and we are dealing with the issue of terrorism. Who has created all these issues for us here? Imperial powers, right? So Akhand Bharat is a genuine aspiration. Yes, Hindu Rashtra is assertion of one identity on all, which should not be acceptable. India is too diverse that India cannot be Hindi, Hindu, Hindustan. Okay, so assertion of one identity is not a wrong, is a wrong aspiration, but aspiration of Akhand Bharat is correcting historical injustice which has been done against us by whom? Imperial power. Okay. So the idea of nation evolves in the West, and their idea of nation is commonality. So West stood for unity in uniformity. What West stood for? Unity in uniformity. And this was a challenge thrown by the colonial powers in front of the leaders of the Indian Congress, that India is too diverse. You are not a nation, you are a land of diversity. That's why we say, na, India is a land of nationalities. Now, what is your idea of India as a nation? Do Kashmir comes in your idea of nation? Are you ready to fight for your idea of nation? But there are people for whom Kashmir is not a part of India, and they are fighting for their own sovereignty. So Kashmiri nationalist or Kashmiri terrorist will depend on which aspect? On your idea of nation. There are violent forces in Northeast who are fighting for their own independence. Topic of your Northeast insurgency in internal security. Do Northeast comes as an integral part of India in your idea of India? But there are voices who want separation and secessionism. Yes. Are they nationalist or terrorist? Depending on your idea of India as a nation. So Bodo nationalist or Bodo terrorist will depend on what? Idea of India as a nation. Naga nationalist terrorist, Kashmiri nationalist terrorist depends on what? Idea of India as a nation. So all conflicts are between what? Two ideas. What is your idea of nation? So what if now you have to say anything, if you, from now onward you have to say this, when we attained independence there was a lot of challenges which was there in front of us. What was the biggest challenge in front of the leadership of India after independence? National integration, as India is a land of diversity. India is a land of cultural diversity. India is a land of religious diversity. So national integration is one of the biggest challenge. So India became a state in 47, and yet we are not strong nation state because of the diversities prevails within the country. तो बहुत ध्यान से सुनो जो बोल रहा हूँ. Till the time there will be violent secessionist movements in different parts of India. Till the time there are voices in different parts of India who seeks independence, it is difficult to claim that we have become what? Strong nation state. The day there will be no violent secessionist movement prevails within the country, it will be easy to claim that now we have become what? A strong nation state. So you all hold a different identity. अभी आपको पता नहीं है, धीरे धीरे समझ आएगा. You all are the sum of different identities. If I ask you, who are you? What you will say? As an individual, who are you? After your name, what is your second identity? Indian है? पक्का? What are the strongest identities people hold in India? सबसे strong identity क्या है हमारी? कास्ट. कास्ट को क्या कहते हैं हिंदी में? जाति. जो कभी ना जाती वो जाति. In India, which will go from womb till tomb, is your caste. So our caste identities are very strong, and till the time caste identities will remain rigid, it will be a challenge for our national identity. So in West, people have strong national identities. In India, people have strong regional caste identities, and this is what we need to change, and we need to strengthen national identity. Only few occasions. There are only few occasions when our national identity becomes strong than caste identities. And what are these few occasions? War with Pakistan, match with Pakistan. उस टाइम हम कास्ट भूल के हमारी कौन सी आइडेंटिटी आगे आती है? National. Otherwise our caste identities are too strong and they keeps overshadowing our national identities. ठीक है? So in every country there are strong unitary forces, which we say centripetal forces, and there are centrifugal forces. And if centrifugal will become more stronger than centripetal, it will lead to what? Disintegration, balkanization. And that's why we need to strengthen our centripetal forces. What do you think in India people have? What kind of forces are stronger, centrifugal or centripetal? Somehow, as we have been able to remain united, it reflects there are strong centripetal forces which kept us united. Okay? So it was British who threw this challenge in front of the leadership of the Indian National Congress that you are not a nation, so we can't give you state. So the idea of nation evolves where? West. And their idea of nation was unity in uniformity, which was countered by the leadership of the Indian National Congress that your idea of nation is flawed and our idea of nation is unity in diversity. ठीक है ना? तो हमने उसको काउंटर किया, हमने कहा unity in diversity. So it was a British leadership who was not ready to give us state, considering we are not a nation. And there emerged a leader called Aurobindo, who challenged the idea of British towards India. They say, he said, हम करेंगे, Aurobindo is part of our syllabus, and that's why he is known as the prophet of Indian nationalism. It was he who said, it is your fault that you can't see India as a nation. Despite diversity, there are strong unitary forces in India, from north to south and from west to East. If you can't see India as a nation, it is your fault. I can see India as a nation. ठीक है? He said India has a soul, though it is dormant. That's why he wrote a series of articles, New Lamps for Old. ये ओल्ड कौन थे? मॉडरेट लीडर्स, दादा भाई नरोजी एंड ऑल. आपने मॉडर्न हिस्ट्री में पढ़ा होगा. ग्रैंड ओल्ड मैन ऑफ इंडिया. So moderate leadership of Congress was ready to accept the British narrative that India is not a nation, but India is becoming a nation under the British sword. Though Aurobindo rejected this thought and he said India was a nation, India is a nation, and if you can't see India as a nation, it is your fault. Despite diversity, there are strong unitary centripetal forces which prevails in India from north to south, that is Kashmir to Kanyakumari, and from Gujarat to northeast. Do you see some centripetal forces in India which can be seen as the unitary forces of ours? Despite diversity of culture, can we say there are some aspects of Indian culture which can be seen as Indic culture? Kaise? Touching the feet of the elders is a part of which culture? Indian culture. You go from north to south and from west to east, you will see this aspect where touching feet of the elders is a part of our cultural values. Use of these in cuisines, in most of the Indian cuisines, the use of spices. Sari is an attire we associate with whom? Western women पहनती हैं साड़ी, चाइनीज पहनती हैं, साउथ ईस्ट एशिया की पहनती हैं, ऑस्ट्रेलियन पहनती है. कौन पहनती है? इंडियन वुमेन. तो साड़ी इज एन अटायर ऑफ हुम? इंडियन वुमेन. आप कहीं से कहीं तक चले जाओ, ड्रेस, साड़ी को रैप करने का स्टाइल अलग हो सकता है, बट साड़ी इज एन अटायर ऑफ हुम? इंडियन वुमेन. सो दिस इज व्हाट नेहरू हैज गिवन melting pot theory also, that millions of years diversity of people have come and what has emerged as something unique called Indic culture or Indian culture. So Aurobindo said, if you can't see India as a nation, it is your fault. When India attained independence, Western scholars, Western political scholars were not have any hope towards the future of India. They said soon India will see balkanization. Considering the diversity prevailing, they can't live together. But survival of India as a united country vindicates the idea of Aurobindo or not? That yes, despite diversity, there are some strong centripetal forces which has kept us united. But we can put a question mark on India being a strong nation state yet because of the secessionist tendencies and violent secessionist movement. The day there will be no violent secessionist movement, it will be easy to claim we have become what? A strong nation state. So borders are artificially drawn in third world countries by whom? Imperial powers. So here states are artificially created, and in the West states are evolved naturally, organically. Right? So I was saying, you all have different identities, like you have caste identity, you have religious identity, you are some of your identities, you have national identity. कौन सी identity सबसे strong है? ठीक है, बोल लो झूठ. नेशनल आइडेंटिटी सबसे स्ट्रांग है. इंडियन फर्स्ट है सबसे पहले. इंडियन फर्स्ट है, पक्का इंडियन फर्स्ट है. और भी कोई आइडेंटिटी होल्ड करते हो? मैं नहीं बताऊंगा तो आपको नहीं पता चलेगा. तो आपने कौन कौन सी आइडेंटिटी बोला आपकी? आप सम ऑफ कौन सी आइडेंटिटीज हो? कास्ट आइडेंटिटी है आपकी, रीजनल आइडेंटिटी भी है जहां से आते हो, रिलीजियस आइडेंटिटी भी है, और नेशनल आइडेंटिटी भी है. किसके लिए मरने को तैयार हो? किस आइडेंटिटी के लिए? और झूठ. ठीक है, नेशनल आइडेंटिटी के लिए मरने को तैयार हो. यू आर रेडी टू गिव योर लाइफ, सेक्रीफाइस योर लाइफ फॉर योर नेशनल आइडेंटिटी. हाँ, यूपीएससी देना है और इंटरव्यू में नंबर चाहिए तो बोलना पड़ेगा. एनीवेज, कोई और आइडेंटिटी है? कोई और आइडेंटिटी है? Let's say you are working at a very senior position in the government of India. A Chinese official working at a very sensitive position within the government of China and comes to know their senior leadership is conspiring for very evil against the world. Some virus they are about to create and they want to spread it in the world. You have come to know about this. Will you keep this information up to you or you will try to save the humanity? तो नेशनलिस्ट फर्स्ट नहीं हो या ह्यूमन फर्स्ट हो? किसी की ह्यूमन आइडेंटिटी नहीं है, सबकी कास्ट, रीजनल, रिलीजियस और नेशनल आइडेंटिटी। भाई यू आर ह्यूमन फर्स्ट, इंसान हो पहले या नहीं? वो आइडेंटिटी कहाँ है? सर आई एम ह्यूमन फर्स्ट। आप इंडियन फर्स्ट हो, ह्यूमन फर्स्ट हो? अच्छा, तो आपकी फर्स्ट एलिजियंस ऑब्लिगेशन टुवर्ड्स हुम है? ह्यूमैनिटी और नेशन। तो आप ह्यूमन आइडेंटिटी तो भूल ही गए। यही लीडर्स चाहते हैं कि आप ह्यूमन आइडेंटिटी भूल जाओ और कौन सी आइडेंटिटी याद रखो? नेशन के लिए मर जाओ। और यही फिर मार्क्स कहेगा नेशन इज फॉल्स कॉन्शियसनेस। भ्रम फैलाया है किसने? कैपिटलिस्ट ने। किनके बच्चे आर्मी में जाके मरते हैं? अंबानी के बच्चे ज्वाइन करते हैं आर्मी, पॉलिटिशियंस के बच्चे जाते हैं सियाचिन। किनसे एक्सपेक्ट करते हैं मर जाओ देश के लिए? इसीलिए सोल्जर्स को पॉलिटिकल साइंस नहीं पढ़ाते, समझ गए? कैच देम यंग, अग्निवीर बना दो ताकि वो बॉर्डर पर जाके रेडी रहें ऑर्डर सुन के लड़ने के लिए। एंड दैट्स व्हाट मार्क्स सेड, नेशन इज अ फॉल्स कॉन्शियसनेस, भ्रम क्रिएटेड बाय हुम? कैपिटलिस्ट। धीरे धीरे समझ आएगा आपको, ठीक है? सो वी होल्ड डिफरेंट आइडेंटिटीज एंड वन ऑफ द आइडेंटिटी विच nationalists do not want you to associate with is your human identity. And that's what Marx said, workers of the world should unite, proletariat internationalism। ठीक है ना? वर्किंग क्लास के इंटरेस्ट सेम है और कैपिटलिस्ट क्लास चाहे वो पाकिस्तान की और इंडिया की हो, उनके इंटरेस्ट सेम है। और वॉर्स आर बीइंग फॉट टू प्रोटेक्ट द इंटरेस्ट ऑफ कैपिटलिस्ट क्लास। वॉर्स किसके इंटरेस्ट में है? कैपिटलिस्ट के। कुछ समझ में आया जो बोला मैंने? ठीक, सो नेशन, ठीक है, एंड स्टेट। व्हाट आर द एलिमेंट्स ऑफ स्टेट? टेरिटरी, पॉपुलेशन, गवर्नमेंट एंड sovereignty. Now what is the most important element? Sovereignty, ठीक है? Sovereignty is the most important element of a state. So in our syllabus we have theory of sovereignty. Hobbes has given the theory of sovereignty. Sovereignty lies at one place. Hobbes में पढ़ेंगे, ठीक है ना? तो sovereignty becomes the most important element of state. So we have objectivity in the concept of state. We have subjectivity in the concept of nation, ठीक है ना? West made what? West created or West made nation as an element of a state. Until unless you are not a nation, you are not eligible for state. But their idea of nation is unity in uniformity, countered by the leadership of the Indian National Congress. That idea of our nation is unity in diversity, ठीक है? Now state can use force for the protection of its integrity and sovereignty. So if anyone is challenging the sovereignty of the state, state will use force। समझ गए बात? ठीक। So any element within the country, within our state, challenges the sovereignty of India will be seen as a threat to our sovereignty, and the state will use force. So state's justification of force is for the protection of its sovereignty, right? Are you done with modern history in GS? Okay. I hope all of you have studied modern history in your 10th class, ठीक है? Define imperialism. कल भी मैंने बताया था, I'll start from the scratch, I'll give you conceptual clarities. आपको जो लगता है आपको पता है वो आपको weak अंडरस्टैंडिंग है, आपको क्लैरिटी नहीं है। तो लोग हिस्ट्री में स्कॉलर होते हैं, मास्टर्स कर लेते हैं, बट उन्हें इंपीरियलिज्म की डेफिनेशन नहीं पता होती। Define imperialism. So you want to say this, that imperialism and colonialism are two different things. We cannot use these two words interchangeably. अच्छा चलो और इजी करते हैं, यहां तक अगर कंफ्यूजन बढ़ गया है तो इजी पूछता हूं, इंडिया वाज अंडर इंपीरियलिज्म और इंडिया वाज अंडर कॉलोनियलिज्म? पहले इंपीरियलिज्म था, पहले कॉलोनियलिज्म था। सोच लो, डाउन विद इंपीरियलिज्म, लॉन्ग लिव रेवोल्यूशन, कुछ ऐसा सुना है? इंपीरियलिज्म की हिंदी क्या होती है? साम्राज्यवाद मुर्दाबाद। और क्या जिंदाबाद? इनकलाब जिंदाबाद, ये तो सुना होगा। तो डाउन विद इंपीरियलिज्म, लॉन्ग लिव रेवोल्यूशन कर रहे हैं रेवोल्यूशनरीज। डाउन विद कॉलोनियलिज्म थोड़ी ना कर रहे हैं। डाउन विद इंपीरियलिज्म, लॉन्ग लिव रेवोल्यूशन, साम्राज्यवाद मुर्दाबाद, इनकलाब जिंदाबाद, ब्रिटिश इंपीरियलिज्म। थोड़ा थोड़ा वही वेग आइडिया था। इकोनॉमिक एक्सप्लॉयटेशन ऑफ अ टेरिटरी, when the British officer came to the court of Jahangir and took over the special trading rights to do trade with India, economic exploitation of a territory is colonialism. Okay, having a direct political control over a territory becomes imperialism. So after the revolt of 1857, ulta bol raha tha, after the revolt of 1857, when British government took over the direct political control of India, London से political control चलने लगा हमारा, तो it turned to imperialism, which will going to be more exploitative. Imperialism. Once you have political control, you can pursue the policy of mercantilism. ठीक है ना, बता दूंगा वो भी बाद में what it is, तो भी सिर्फ overview है. So it turned to imperialism. Imperialism requires militarism. So controlling a territory through force is imperialism, and war against imperialism is revolution. समझ गए? That's why Indian revolutionaries, though British tried to create a narrative of revolutionary terrorism in India post 20s. So for them, revolutionaries were terrorists, but no, we see them as revolutionaries because they were fighting against imperialism. In Delhi, we have a democratic government, and violence against democracy is terrorism. In a democratic setup, only way to acquire power is ballot, not bullet. Anyone who is using bullet or force to acquire power becomes terrorist. You all are well aware of this. In Pakistan, military calls the shots. Military keeps power in its hand. Pakistan is not governed from Islamabad, it governs from military headquarters, Rawalpindi. Okay? But still, Pakistan wants to project itself as a democratic country on paper. Because the day Pakistan military will take over the control in Pakistan directly and it becomes military dictatorship, the violent movements which are going on within Pakistan will become revolution. अगर आपको थोड़ा सा पता है तो बलूचिस्तान में एक ग्रुप है BLA, बलूचिस्तान लिबरेशन आर्मी, who is fighting for the independence of Baluchistan. But on paper, Pakistan projects itself as a democracy. That's why they are able to project BLA as a terrorist group. If Pakistan military will take over power directly, Pakistan will become military dictatorship, and violence against dictatorship becomes revolution. फिर ये revolutionary group हो जाएगा. So India is a democratic country. We are not an imperial power at present. So anyone who is using force, threatening the sovereignty and trying to acquire power will be seen as terrorist. And this gives justification to the state to use force to counter the violence of that terrorist group. So state is not using violence, state is using force to counter violence. समझाई बात? State's justification of using force for the protection of integrity, sovereignty. So states do use force for the protection of sovereignty. ठीक है? Now India is united. We are one because of force or because of the feeling of strong or because of the strong feeling of oneness. क्या बोलोगे? हम यूनाइटेड हैं आफ्सपा की वजह से, आर्म फोर्सेस स्पेशल पावर एक्ट की वजह से, या हम यूनाइटेड हैं बिकॉज ऑफ द फीलिंग ऑफ वननेस? वननेस बोलोगे, ये मत बोलना, बिकॉज इफ यू थिंक वी आर One, because of force, it will turn us what? Imperial. And violence against imperialism is revolution. तो वो क्या हो जाएगा? कश्मीरी नेशनलिस्ट हो जाएगा, टेररिस्ट की बजाय. ठीक है ना? So we do conduct elections in the valley. We have given them the democratic right. Democracy is more vibrant on our side of Kashmir. Same cannot goes true even for the territory which has been under the control of Pakistan. In fact, whole Pakistan is being controlled by whom? Their army. समझ गए? So we are not one because of force. We are one because of the feeling of oneness. ऐसी बातें करोगे, नहीं भी मन करे तो. ठीक है? So this is what you have to say. अब दोबारा से पढ़ो ये सारे पॉइंट्स जो हमने डिस्कशन किए थे नेशन स्टेट पे. सो टेरिटरी, पोजीशन ऑफ टेरिटरी इज इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर हुम? स्टेट. जूइश नेशनलिज्म एग्जिस्ट करता था विदाउट इजराइल इन एग्जिस्टेंस. जूइश नेशनलिज्म लेड टू द क्रिएशन ऑफ द स्टेट ऑफ इजराइल. सब पढ़ाऊंगा कैसे हुआ, ठीक है ना, पार्ट ऑफ आवर सिलेबस है. बट जूइश नेशनलिज्म एग्जिस्ट करता था. यस. खालिस्तानी नेशनलिज्म एग्जिस्ट करता है. स्टेट एग्जिस्ट नहीं करती खालिस्तान. But problem with Khalistani nationalism is they only need Khalistan from the Indian side of Punjab. I always say this at various forum. I also said this. कुछ friends हैं जो कनाडा में हैं. I always said this that the real Punjab is on the other side of Pakistan. You should aspire for that first. ठीक है ना? So why you only aspire for Indian side of Punjab? Why not Pakistan side of Punjab? वो भी तो ले लो. Will support you for Khalistan, right? So Khalistani nationalism exists without Khalistan. Jewish nationalism exists without Israel. ठीक है ना? अखंड भारत exist here, but not in reality. ठीक है ना? Who needs force to keep integrity, sovereignty intact? State. क्योंकि nation में तो वैसे ही feeling of oneness है. So the day we do not have to use force in any part of the country, then we'll be able to claim we are a strong nation state. ठीक है ना? So we are, the process is still going on and we need to strengthen our national identity. So what was the biggest challenge in front of the Indian leadership after independence? National integration. ठीक है जी? ठीक है, ये पॉइंट्स पढ़े. So आज अगर ब्रॉडली भी नेशन और स्टेट की बात समझ आई है, बहुत है इतना. ठीक है? अब so these are the four elements of state. और मैंने आपको यहां बताया. सो दैट्स व्हाई वी से वी, सो देखो नेशनलिज्म. अब इज्म भी क्या हो गई? आइडियोलॉजी. नेशनलिज्म. ओके. एंड नेशन इज एन आइडिया. योर आइडिया ऑफ नेशन कैन बी इन क्लैश विद समवन एल्स आइडिया ऑफ नेशन. सो क्लैश ऑफ टू नेशनैलिटीज. सब आइडियाज है. ठीक है ना? और इसी को मार्क्स रिफ्यूट करेगा, मार्क्स काउंटर करेगा. Nation is an idea, serves the interest of capitalist class. Do not fall into this false consciousness of nation. Do not sacrifice anything for nation. If you are sacrificing nation, you are under false consciousness, because in the end you are serving the interest of capitalist class. ठीक? Religion and nation are false consciousness for whom? Marx. Religion opium है और nation false consciousness है. ठीक? एक ग्रुप इमर्ज हुआ वर्ल्ड में विद द नेम इस्लामिक स्टेट. इस्लामिक स्टेट, एंड दे एक्वायर्ड द टेरिटरीज ऑफ इराक एंड सीरिया एंड इट बिकेम इस्लामिक स्टेट ऑफ इराक एंड सीरिया, ISIS. हैव यू हर्ड अबाउट दिस पर्टिकुलर ग्रुप? ये वेस्ट एशिया में आया. वन ऑफ द मोस्ट ब्रूटल ग्रुप विच इमर्ज with the objective to govern territories through Sharia, Islamic law. ठीक? Now, Islamic State as a group took over the territories. Within the territory, population was living. They created their own hierarchy of government, with Baghdadi declared himself as the Khalifa of the state, the supreme ruler. Can we say IS a sovereign entity? No. और कुछ? All of you have a consensus on this? No. All of you are wrong. ठीक? So first class, let me tell you, whenever I'll ask something, it means answer will not going to be that easy कि no और yes में आप कर पाओ. अगर मैं पूछ रहा हूँ तो इसका मतलब उसमें कुछ ट्रैप है, वरना मैं पूछूंगा ही नहीं आपसे. ठीक है ना? तो भी अगली 160 क्लासेस में ये सिलसिला चला रहेगा. मैं पूछूंगा, तो एकदम से जंप मत करना आंसर पर. देयर इज समथिंग, दैट्स व्हाई आई हैव आस्क्ड, थिंक, डेलिब्रेट ऑन दैट. सर पूछ रहे हैं तो कुछ तो बात होगी, ठीक है ना. सो कैन वी से IAS एज अ सॉवरेन एंटिटी और नॉट? यू नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड. इट मीन्स यू डू नॉट हैव अ क्लैरिटी ऑफ द कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ सॉवरेनिटी. ठीक है ना. सॉवरेनिटी मीन्स व्हेन देयर इज नो वन अबव यू. टेररिस्ट ग्रुप्स आर मोस्ट सॉवरेन. वो किसकी सुनते हैं? States, countries have diluted their sovereignty by creating supranational body like UN. At least on paper, it is expected if UN is passing some norms, rules, regulations, states will comply with that. So states agreed to dilute their sovereignty a bit. What is the reason? You will come to know later. But terrorist groups are most sovereign. They are beyond control of anyone. जो उन्हें करना है वो करेंगे. अलकायदा किसी की सुनेगी थोड़ी ना. So they are sovereign entities. All terrorist groups are sovereign entities. Lashkar, Jaish, Hizbul, you name any terrorist violent group, they are sovereign. This turned IS into a state. They have their own flag also with the constitution. But IS is not a state in international system. How many states we have in international system? 193. There are entities who claim themselves as state exist in world, but they are not yet accepted as a state in international system. To become a state in international system, you need recognition from 2/3 member countries of UN. Once you get recognition from 2/3 member countries of UN, you become state in international system. आगे पढ़ो. तो ये क्वेश्चन लास्ट टू लास्ट ईयर प्री में आया था. Two theories. पढ़ो. There are two theories which are being used, declarative and constitutive. So which theory we use in world politics now? Constitutive theory. So a state becomes state in international system once you get recognition from 2/3 member countries. Getting recognition means you acquire voting right in UN General Assembly. ठीक है. So every country has one vote in General Assembly. Becoming a state in international system gives you access to UN agencies. It gives a voting right to you in General Assembly. ठीक. So IS not get any recognition from anyone. किसी ने recognize नहीं किया IS को. And their aspiration is Islamic Caliphate under one Khalifa. ठीक है. आगे देखो the tables. So these are states having dispute with other. So these are states in international system having recognition from 2/3 member countries, but there are few states who have yet not given recognition to them. आपको याद नहीं रखना है, बस ग्लांस करना है. तो साउथ कोरिया को कौन नहीं रिकॉग्नाइज करता? नॉर्थ. और नॉर्थ को कौन नहीं करता? साउथ. तो दोनों में डिस्प्यूट है. ठीक. बोथ स्टैंड फॉर डिफरेंट काइंड ऑफ पॉलिटिकल सिस्टम. अर्मीनिया को कौन रिकॉग्नाइज नहीं कर रहा है? Pakistan. So recently it was in the news, the war between Armenia and Azerbaijan, and they are having war on a territory with the name क्या है? नागोरा कराबाख रीजन. अपनी एटलस ओपन करना और डिमार्केट करना. तो प्री में क्वेश्चन आया भी था. अर्मेनिया एंड अजरबैजान आर फाइटिंग फॉर विच टेरिटरी? नागोरा कराबाख रीजन. ठीक है. देयर आर टू चाइनास. वन इज PRC, our neighbor, People's Republic. Second is ROC, Republic of China, Taiwan. So after the end of Second World War, it was Republic of China, Taiwan, who used to represent China in UN as a permanent member. 70 onwards, dynamics changed. ROC lost the status of statehood because US improved its ties with PRC. PRC replaced the ROC in UN as a permanent member, and right now ROC do not have a status of statehood, and PRC wants to integrate ROC within China, and they stands for One China policy. Okay. Israel still not having recognition from many Arab states. So UN state recognized by few UN member states. That is state of Palestine. But yet state of Palestine do not have recognition from 2/3 members. Because it does not have recognition from 2/3 members, yet it is not a state in international system. यहाँ पे अपने उसमें लिख लो, नोटबुक में लिखो पैलेस्टीन, देयर इज अ रीजन फॉर दिस, लिखो पैलेस्टीन हैज एक्वायर्ड द ऑब्जर्वर स्टेटस इन यूएन, एक्वायर्ड द ऑब्जर्वर स्टेटस इन यूएन इन 2012। ठीक, सो डिफरेंस क्या होता है हैविंग ऑब्जर्वर स्टेटस एंड हैविंग द फुल टाइम मेंबरशिप। वंस यू बिकम मेंबर or once you get recognition from two-third member, you acquired voting right in General Assembly. Observer status means you can only observe the meetings of General Assembly, you yet do not have a voting right. So Palestine has acquired the observer status in UN in 2012. देखो, India supported the observer status for Palestine. India supported the observer status for Palestine, and India supports full statehood for Palestine. इंडिया फुल स्टेटहुड सपोर्ट करता है, ये पता होना चाहिए आपको, ये हमारा ऑफिशियल स्टैंड है, ठीक है ना। वी सपोर्ट फुल स्टेटहुड फॉर पैलेस्टीन। विच टेरिटरीज कंप्राइजेस पैलेस्टीन, कौन सी टेरिटरीज मिलके पैलेस्टीन बनता है? गाजा एंड वेस्ट बैंक, ठीक है। तो मैप देखना आज जाके, गाजा किधर है, वेस्ट बैंक किधर है, ठीक है। सो द टेरिटरी ऑफ गाजा एंड वेस्ट बैंक कंप्राइजेस पैलेस्टीन। वेस्ट बैंक की गवर्निंग अथॉरिटी है पीएलओ, पैलेस्टीनियन लिबरेशन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, और गाजा की गवर्निंग अथॉरिटी थी हमास, विच हैज बीन डेसिमेटेड बाय इजराइल रिसेंटली इन इजराइल हमास वॉर। ये सारी बातें पेपर 2 में आएंगी व्हेन विल डिस्कस डायनामिक्स ऑफ वेस्ट एशिया, इंडिया वेस्ट एशिया, ठीक है ना, लुक वेस्ट पॉलिसी ऑफ आर। अब आगे देखो नेक्स्ट टेबल, ये वो टेरिटरीज हैं those who do have recognition from many UN member states, but they yet do not have recognition from 2/3 member states. तो कोसोवो के लीडर्स ने इंडिपेंडेंस डिक्लेयर कर दी है, फ्रॉम हुम, देखो फ्रॉम हुम, सर्बिया। सो सर्बियन नेशनलिस्ट विल सी द कोसोवन नेशनलिस्ट एज टेररिस्ट। So Kosovan nationalism is a threat for the integrity sovereignty of Serbia. Baluch nationalism is a threat for integrity sovereignty of Pakistan. ठीक है ना। Pashtun nationalism is a threat for integrity sovereignty of Pakistan. So Pashtuns are in Afghanistan, Pashtuns are in Pakistan, northwestern frontier province, and yet Pashtuns have not accepted the legality of Durand line, which was demarcated by British. So Pashtun nationalism is a threat for Pakistan. Baluch nationalism is a threat for Pakistan. Khalistani nationalism is a threat for India. Kashmiri nationalism is a threat for India. ठीक है ना। Naga nationalism is a threat for India. ठीक। Next is Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic. तो ये potential territories हैं which can become new states in world politics. ठीक है ना। ये नई स्टेट्स बन सकती हैं दुनिया में। 193rd स्टेट कौन सी बनी थी दुनिया में? वेरी गुड, साउथ सुडान, ठीक है ना। तो नई स्टेट्स दुनिया में बन सकती हैं, ठीक। व्हाट इज द कैपिटल ऑफ साउथ सुडान? व्हाट इज द कैपिटल ऑफ नॉर्थ सुडान? हाँ, खार्तूम, अजीब। सो रिपब्लिक ऑफ चाइना, रिपब्लिक ऑफ साउथ ओसेटिया, एब्खेनिया, so these are territories not on the moon. तो पता होना चाहिए आपको एज एन एस्पिरेंट, ओके। these are the territories which are disputed issues in world affairs and world politics, ठीक है ना। ठीक है ना। उसके बाद ऐसी भी टेरिटरीज हैं which have recognition from whom? those who themselves looking forward for recognition. तो उन्हें किसी और ने रिकॉग्निशन तो दिया नहीं है, इन्होंने कहा चलो हम दे देते हैं तुम्हें, ठीक है, लो हमसे ले लो रिकॉग्निशन। तो दे देमसेल्फ आर स्ट्रगलिंग फॉर देयर ओन रिकॉग्निशन, ठीक है। समझ आया? नेशन, स्टेट, स्टेट इन इंटरनेशनल सिस्टम, ठीक। इंपीरियलिज्म, colonialism. Controlling territory through force is imperialism. Now till Second World War, till Second World War, the era of direct imperialism was prevailing, right? Having a direct political control. Is it possible to have indirect political control also over our territory? By bringing those leaders in power who will follow the policies which will be in your interest. That becomes neo-imperialism. Who was the biggest imperial power in the world? British. Who became the biggest neo-imperial power in the world post 90s? Sorry, post Second World War? US. तो दुनिया में कुछ बदला नहीं है, यही आपको समझ आएगा. ठीक है. So if there is a leadership in power in one country X who is not ready to follow the policies which are in the interest of US, and US as a country is controlled by whom? US capitalist. They will instigate coup in that country and will bring those leaders in power who will follow pro-Western policies and open their market for them. ठीक है ना? So for the nationalists of that country, the leaders will be agent of imperialism and this will become neo-imperialism. समझा? जैसे अफगानिस्तान में तालिबान वॉज इन पावर फ्रॉम 96. अभी भूल जाओ क्या तालिबान, कौन तालिबान. एज आई सेड, वाई इज भूल जाओ अभी. 96 till 2001 तालिबान वॉज इन पावर. ड्यूरिंग कोल्ड वॉर 1979 सोवियत इन्वेडेड अफगानिस्तान. ये बात पता है? पता है तो ठीक है, नहीं तो सुन लो. 1979 सोवियत एंटर्ड इनटू अफगानिस्तान. एट दैट टाइम these Islamic fundamentalists, violent fundamentalists, trained and created by whom? US, to fight against Soviet. When they were fighting against Soviet, who was giving them weapons? US. ठीक है ना? So these Islamic fundamentalists fighting against Soviet, and they used to see them as what? Mujahids, freedom fighters who is fighting against Soviet invasion, who is trying to control their territory. ठीक. So when they were fighting against Soviet, they were mujahids. Mujahid means freedom fighters. Their jihad was against one Western power, that is Soviet. Jihad means revolution. Now after 9/11, US started a war against Taliban. So when they were fighting against Soviet, they were mujahids. And now when they are fighting against US, they become terrorists. So US decide करेगा कौन terrorist है और कौन नहीं. So in their worldview, they are still mujahids. Once they are fighting against one power, now they are fighting against another Western power. ठीक. Taliban lost the political control. Northern Alliance as a leadership emerged, elected by less than 2% of the Afghan people. US projected we have installed democracy. Taliban leadership wanted to govern Afghan through Islamic values. They were ready to impose Western values. Education for girls, allow them to wear Western dresses. Okay, modernization of the society. They will see as a threat for the Islamic values. They will see them as what? Puppet of Western imperialism. And it becomes new imperialism. So Taliban fighting against them and NATO. For Taliban, what they are doing is revolution, because war against imperialism is what? Revolution. So in their worldview, they are doing a jihad against Western imperialism, and war against imperialism is revolution, and West projected them as terrorists. Are they terrorists? Depending on two different ideas altogether. It's a clash of ideas, and this makes Gandhi more and more relevant, which you will understand and appreciate. And Gandhi said, if we use violence to impose our idea, whole world will be blind. We need to defeat everyone through our power of argument and not through force. So clash of two ideas. So since the end of Second World War, what prevails in the world is neo-imperialism, indirect political control. ठीक? Do you think there are voices in our neighborhood who blame India also as a imperial power? Do you think? Yesterday I told you India is pursuing neighborhood first policy, and we want our influence intact within our neighborhood. In future, you as an IFS officer been posted in Nepal or Bangladesh or Sri Lanka, will you try to keep the influence of Delhi intact in Sri Lanka? यही काम के लिए तो भेजा है आपको. Let's say elections are about to happen in Nepal. There is a party who is pro India, there is a party who is pro China. Will you try to manipulate the elections and electoral outcome in Nepal, and will try to bring those leaders in power who will be pro India? Will you accept this? This is diplomacy. ठीक है ना? Art of lying. So every country tries to do that, and India is being seen as imperial by whom? Nationalist forces of this region, and they blame Delhi for interfering in their internal affairs. समझ आई बात? So there are Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, there are parties in the region who are pro-India and take anti-India stand. So based on which party will come to power will going to determine the pitch of our foreign policy and engagement. As Sheikh Hasina government lost the power, it was a setback for India or not? Yes, because the government of Sheikh Hasina was pursuing pro-India policy. समझ आई बात? So New Delhi also tries to influence the political affairs of the neighboring countries, and US try to influence the political affairs of the countries of the world, and this becomes what? Neo-imperialism. And war against imperialism is revolution. So in the worldview of the leaders of Taliban, they were fighting against Western imperialism, and they are not terrorists, they are mujahids, and their jihad is against West, and those who are in power, they are the puppet of West. I use the word fundamentalism. Fundamentalism. Islamic fundamentalist. Violent fundamentalist. है ना? So Taliban is seen as a Islamic fundamentalist organization. It is not like fundamentalists are only in one religion. They can be Jewish fundamentalists, Christian fundamentalists, Hindu fundamentalist. Who is fundamentalist? आपको वर्ड्स की क्लैरिटी होनी चाहिए, तभी हम कहना इस्लामिक फंडामेंटलिज्म इज अ थ्रेट फॉर वर्ल्ड पीस. हु इज फंडामेंटलिस्ट? सुना है ये वर्ड? जो अपनी वैल्यूज को थोपते हैं और मनवाते हैं अपनी इसको आप लिखना चाहो तो लिख भी सकते हो, लिख लो. फंडामेंटलिस्ट मींस रिजिडिटी इन द बिलीफ सिस्टम. Rigidity in the belief and the value system is fundamentalism. So always there will be a clash between whom? Liberals and fundamentalists. Liberals are open to embrace new values, and fundamentalists are holds the rigidity in their belief and the value system. ठीक है ना? So fundamentalists and conservatives, we sometimes do use the word interchangeably. ठीक है ना? Fundamentalists are bound to be conservatives. They hold the old values near to their chest and heart. ठीक? Liberals are ready to embrace new values. समझ आई बात? Rigidity in the belief and the value system. Do you hold some rigid beliefs? कुछ rigid belief hold करते हो आप अपनी लाइफ में? On which you will never compromise? है कोई ऐसा बिलीफ? है? If I'll put gun on your temple, still you will hold to that belief? Let's say you don't eat non-veg. If I put gun on your temple, will you eat non-veg? या कहोगे गोली मार दो सर, मैं नॉन वेज तो नहीं खाऊंगा या खाऊंगी सर, नॉन चिकन खा लूंगी, बीफ नहीं खाऊंगी. काउ इज टू इनोसेंट सर. है कोई ऐसा बिलीफ जिसके लिए मरने को तैयार हो या नहीं है? है. So holding rigid beliefs is fundamentalism. Are you fundamentalist? Up to a certain degree. अभी डिग्री कैसे डिसाइड होगी, किस डिग्री तक हो? ठीक है. देखो, होल्डिंग रिजिड बिलीव इज नॉट अ इशू. यू कैन होल्ड रिजिड बिलीव्स. You are totally free to hold rigid beliefs until unless you are not imposing your beliefs on others, that too through violence. तो नई बात, मैंने कल भी ये बात बताई थी ओरिएंटेशन में. Even reformers hold beliefs. You stand for some beliefs and you want to propagate those beliefs through dialectics, debates, and discussions. This is, you are reformer. In the society, you want new reforms. You think this belief system is best way of life. You are propagating them not through force. If you are propagating your beliefs through force, this is terrorism. So violent fundamentalism is a threat for world peace, and Islamic fundamentalists wants to impose their Islamic values on others through force. Anyone deviating from their dictates, they are using violence against them, and this makes them terrorist. So what is threat for world peace? Violent fundamentalism of any kind. Any belief system, if someone wants to impose on others through force, will be equivalent to what? Terrorism. तो अगर तालिबान टेररिस्ट है तो those खप पंचायत in Haryana who kills the, if who is ready to kill anyone who is going for same gotra marriage or deviating from their dictates and they are killing them, they are equivalent to what? Taliban. Such menace prevails in every section of the society where there are few who become self-proclaimed protector of values and uses force. No one is allowed to take violence in their hand in a democratic setup. We have institutions. Let system punish if someone has committed any mistake. No one has given right to anyone else to use force against other. ठीक है ना? So violence of any kind against other needs to be seen as what? Terrorism. ठीक है? So those who are doing lynchings on the name of killing of cow, they are also equivalent to what? Terrorists. So violence of any kind in a democratic setup needs to be seen as terrorism. And that is why terrorism is such a subjective issue. Who is terrorist? So you as an officer in future will never going to bring difference in, you will never differentiate violence. You will not differentiate left wing violence is terrorism, जो आपको मैं समझाऊंगा, but right wing violence is nationalism. No, you will never differentiate between violence. Violence of any kind needs to be seen through the same lens, that is terrorism. ठीक है ना? So we cannot differentiate between left wing violence and right wing violence. ठीक है? Are you aware of the ideology of left and right? समझते हो लेफ्ट और राइट को? कोई बात नहीं, ठीक है ना? ये आइडियोलॉजीज में आएगा. हु आर लेफ्ट, हु आर राइट, द टर्मिनोलॉजी विच आई हैव जस्ट यूज्ड. फंडामेंटलिज्म समझ आया? रिजिडिटी इन द बिलीफ सिस्टम. एनी रिजिडिटी इन द बिलीफ सिस्टम and imposition of that belief system through violence becomes, or it becomes equivalent to terrorism. You want to live with your value system, your rigid beliefs, that is totally fine until unless you are not imposing them on others through violence. Okay? So fundamentalist holds a rigidity, and that is why conflict will always be there between liberals and fundamentalists. Those who want to live with the liberal values, they are ready to embrace new values. With the changing times, with new inventions and discoveries, you are ready to live with the new value system, new revelations. Today we know sun is what? Not a god. Sun is just a star. Hydrogen is converting into helium. It also has a lifetime. It will either become black hole or a red giant star, and there are millions of such suns in the galaxy. अब ये बात जरा आप एक फंडामेंटलिस्ट को समझा दो सर, ना उसने बंदूक निकाल के गोली मार दी आपको. ठीक है, तो ये फर्क है. आप किससे बात कर रहे हो? ठीक है ना? सो समटाइम्स टू डील विद फंडामेंटलिस्ट यू नीड टू होल्ड गन इन योर हैंड, क्योंकि वो सुन ही नहीं रहा. आप डिबेट उससे करोगे ना जो रैशनली आपसे आर्ग्यूमेंट करेगा. अब वो गन निकाल लेगा तो आपको काउंटर गन से ही करना पड़ेगा ना. सो वायलेंस नीड्स टू बी काउंटर्ड थ्रू force, and as an officer you will not shy away from using force because sometimes you need to counter violence. ठीक, लिखो. Political science begins and ends with state. begins and ends with state. लिखो द मॉडर्न कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ स्टेट. जैसी स्टेट आप देख रहे हो, जैसी स्टेट एग्जिस्ट कर रही है, मॉडर्न कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ स्टेट. तो मैं आपको बताऊंगा एंशियंट टाइम्स में कैसी स्टेट थी, और प्लेटो और एरिस्टोटल कब, दे आर द फिलोसफर्स ऑफ विच टाइम, एंशियंट टाइम्स, ग्रीस के टाइम के थे वो. फिर आया मिडिवियल टाइम्स, फिर आया मॉडर्न टाइम, और फिर आपको पता चलेगा पोस्ट मॉडर्न, पोस्ट मॉडर्निटी. एंड नाउ वी आर इन विच टाइम्स, पोस्ट मॉडर्न टाइम्स. ठीक है ना. सो प्लेटो एंड एरिस्टोटल आर ऑफ विच टाइम, एंशियंट टाइम. मैकियावेली इज अ ट्रांजिशनल वन, and Hobbes is first modern political scholar, then Locke, Mill, Marx. मिडिवल टाइम में कोई क्यों नहीं था? एज ऑफ रिलीजन, एवरीथिंग गवर्न फ्रॉम द प्रिज्म ऑफ रिलीजन. डर इतना था, फिलॉसफी का एंड हो गया. ठीक है ना, नोन एज डार्क एजेस. एज ऑफ रेनेसा फॉर यूरोप केम अराउंड 17th century. रेनेसा मीन्स रीबर्थ, rebirth of scientific temperament, rebirth of humanism, मैन एट द सेंटर ऑफ यूनिवर्स. इस लाइफ के बारे में ज्यादा चिंता करो, आफ्टर लाइफ की बाद में चिंता होगी, पहले यहां तो ढंग से जी लें. तो यूरोप में रहना सा कब आया, 17th century. इंडिया में रहना सा कब आया, 19th century, एडवेंट ऑफ ब्रिटिश. दैट्स व्हाई वी कैजुअली थ्रू दीज वर्ड दैट हम 200 साल पीछे हैं उनसे. क्यों 200 साल पीछे हैं? क्योंकि हमारा रेनेसा आया 19th, वहां कब आया, 17th विद द एडवेंट ऑफ ब्रिटिश. तो आप रिलेट कर पा रहे हो. ठीक है, लिखो मॉडर्न कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ स्टेट. Evolved in the Treaty of Westphalia. Evolved in the Treaty of Westphalia. कुछ आइडिया कब साइन हुई है ट्रीटी? वेरी गुड, 1648. तो इस ट्रीटी में क्या हुआ था, 30 years ऑफ वॉर एंड हुआ था यूरोप में. हमें नहीं पढ़ना, हिस्ट्री का काम है. ठीक है ना. मॉडर्न कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ स्टेट इवॉल्व्ड इन द ट्रीटी ऑफ वेस्टफेलिया साइंड इन 1648. And in this treaty, the concept of sovereignty evolved. है ना, द कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ सॉवरेनिटी इवॉल्व, कि भाई स्टेट्स की सॉवरेनिटी थ्रेटन नहीं करेंगे. कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ सॉवरेनिटी इवॉल्व. नेक्स्ट बुलेट पॉइंट लिखो, नेशन कम्स फ्रॉम द लैटिन वर्ड नास्की, NASCI. नेशन कम्स फ्रॉम द लैटिन वर्ड नास्की, मीनिंग रेस. NASCI, नास्की, मीनिंग रेस. नेक्स्ट बुलेट पॉइंट लिखो, इन अ पर्टिकुलर ज्योग्राफी, a particular race, a particular race comma ethnicity develops and a particular way of life a particular way of life, and culture evolves. Way of life and culture evolves. And the strongest medium to express culture, medium to express culture is language. तो हमें कल्चर के लिए सबसे ज्यादा स्ट्रॉन्गेस्ट मीडियम क्या है? लैंग्वेज इज द बेस्ट एक्सप्रेशन ऑफ कल्चर. तो आप देख लो, लिंग्विस्टिक डाइवर्सिटी रिफ्लेक्ट्स ब्रॉडर कल्चर्स ऑफ इंडिया. ठीक, नेक्स्ट बुलेट पॉइंट देखो, दस एथनिसिटी. Does ethnicity, common language, common religion became the basis of recognition of oneness or nationhood. Next bullet point. The above idea of nation is European in origin. And it is based on the idea of unity in uniformity. Full stop. This theory of nationalism is called as theory of cultural nationalism. Called as theory of cultural nationalism. ठीक है ना? Those people having same culture are eligible for statehood. And India is a diversity of culture. So British throw this challenge in front of us. कैसे दे दें आपको state? ठीक है ना? इसको काउंटर किया औरबिंदो ने. तुम्हें नहीं दिख रहा. ठीक है ना? Despite diversity, we have something called Indic culture. ठीक है ना? There is a oneness. There is a commonness. लिखो. In Indian context, this idea of nation, that is cultural nationalism, is propounded by Jinnah and Savarkar. and thus it was based on Western and the European idea. Next bullet point. However, the leadership of Indian National Congress supported the idea of political nationalism. Underline political nationalism. That is the idea of unity in diversity. Idea of unity in diversity. Underline. Full stop. This idea is based on this this idea is based on the Indian civilizational values of pluralism and tolerance. ठीक? So हमारी civilizational values किसकी हैं? Tolerance, pluralism. We are inherently pluralistic. Pluralistic means we are open to embrace new cultures. ठीक है? Next bullet point लिखो. लिखो in the modern times it is the West who made nation as the unit of the state. Who made nation as the unit of the state. That is, if people can establish themselves. That is, if people can establish themselves as nation, then they are eligible. Then they are eligible for recognition as a state. Eligible for recognition as a state. तो उनको state दे देंगे. Full stop. नेक्स्ट बुलेट पॉइंट इन नॉन वेस्टर्न वर्ल्ड. तो वेस्ट में स्टेट्स कैसे हुई हैं इवॉल्व? ऑर्गेनिकली इवॉल्व हुई हैं. लिखो इन नॉन वेस्टर्न वर्ल्ड most of the states are facing the crisis of nation building. In non-western world, most of the states are facing the crisis of nation building. As most of the states are the product of imperialism. Most of the states are the product of imperialism. And imperial powers has artificially created these states. Artificially created these states. समझ आया? सो आज यहीं तक रखते हैं डिस्कशन. You do not have to buy any book for the time being. You don't have to read much of the books. I'll share the PDFs of the books, whatever is required. If you want the hard copy of that, then you can buy that. Only books which you have to read for paper 1 part A is Western Political Thought, Opigaba, and Political Theory, same Gaba. Right? Students keep asking, sir, books, and the moment I'll say at least read these 2 books, students don't want to even read these 2 books. Let me tell you. ठीक है ना, लगता है सर नोट से हो जाएगा, सर नोट से हो जाएगा. नोट से हो जाएगा, but still you should read these 2 books. After every chapter I'll tell you, okay, now you read this chapter from this book. ठीक है ना. There is another book also, might be you have also heard about Subrata Mukherjee and Sushila Ramaswamy for Western Thought. Try not to read it. ठीक है ना. इफ यू स्टिल वांट टू, यू आर फ्री टू डू सो. पढ़ना कोई बुरा नहीं है, बहुत ज़्यादा हेल्प नहीं रहेगा आपके लिए, एंड आपके लिए नोट्स बहुत रहेंगे. ठीक है, बट book reading is must. One, it gives you confidence. Second, it helps you to consolidate better, and I cannot dictate everything. Book reading gives you a much broader overview of the issue. So do read the book. ठीक है ना. After the completion of the topic, जब प्लेटो खत्म हो जाएगा तब प्लेटो पढ़ना है बुक से. ठीक है ना, इन बिटवीन नहीं. मैं आपको बताता रहूंगा. So I'll share the PDFs of these 2 books. Then for paper 2, you have to read only one book, that is Andrew Haywood, Global Politics. I'll share the PDF of this also. ठीक, Andrew Haywood. For paper 2 part B, you do not have to refer any book. उसकी कोई बुक है ही नहीं. बहुत सारी बुक्स है मार्केट में, वो क्रैप हैं. This is not the way you need to have an understanding of world politics and world dynamics. I'll tell you. I'll share the PDFs. I'll give you the notes. After that, only newspaper reading, that to one newspaper. On the group, I'll keep sharing the important editorials and articles also. ठीक है ना. You do not have to go to ORF, the website. You do not have to go to the website of MEA. कुछ नहीं follow करना है. ठीक है ना. तो इसके लिए कोई बुक नहीं है. Andrew Haywood is for the concepts, right? So वो पढ़ लेना. ठीक है. So for a week, revise your syllabus, cram your syllabus. ठीक है ना. Syllabus should be in your mind. छपा होना चाहिए पेपर पूरे का पूरा. ठीक है ना. क्या क्या टॉपिक्स हैं, चैप्टर्स हैं, उनके अंदर क्या लिखा है, ये सब आपको याद होना चाहिए. ठीक. बाय, टेक केयर, बेस्ट विशेस.